surface, okay?
Oh my God.
Don't bump it, okay? Be careful.
Okay.
All right. Now, the main concept is this. When you have parametric equations, and I'm just going to go ahead and, this is not on the sheet, just look, just watch. If you have parametric equations that look like this, they make a line. We went through that last time. We can solve for t, substitute in, get an equation of a line, y equals mx plus b. If we're going backwards, I need you to understand that these coordinates right here represent a point on the line, and these numbers right here give me the slope of the line. Now, when I do slope, I'm very, very careful because slope is y over x. So the slope of this line would be -1 over 3. And a point on this line would be 2, 4. So when you write your parametric equations, whatever you put first, x, y, that's a point. Whatever you put on the t's is the slope, but it's y over x is the slope. So in problem B, this is 2B, 6.3, 2B. It says I have 2 points, and I'm going to write the parametric equations of the line. So in other words, I'm going to write this. Here are the numbers, the slots for the numbers that create equations that look like this. Now, what did we say goes in these first 2 boxes? What goes right here? Any point on the line. So either 3, 6 or -1, -2. I'm going to pick 3, 6. It doesn't matter. You can use either one. But a point goes here. You got it? Now, what goes here? The slope. So now I got to come back up to my points, and I got to figure out what the slope is. So slope, remember, is y minus y over x minus x. So that works out to be 8 over 4, which is 2 over 1. So the slope goes in these boxes. But when I do that, I have to be really careful because slope is y over x, right? So 2 over 1. And there are the answers. That's it. That's all there is to it. Isn't that easy? We got to remember what goes where, but it's easy. All right, let's try the next one. You are writing the parametric equations. So x equals something plus something t, y equals something plus something t. I'm just using blanks instead of boxes this time. My points are -2, 0, and 1, 1. All right, here we go. What are you putting here? You're putting 2 points, right? You put a point, x and y. So -2, 0 is fine. If you'd rather use 1, 1, that is fine. Now, what goes in this t blank? The slope. So slope is y minus y over x minus x. I got positive 1/3 for my slope. Did I do that right?
Yep.
Is that okay with everybody? Now, do I put 1, 3? You got to be real careful. This is y and this is x, right? So you're going to put 3 for the x and 1 with the y. That's the trickiest part. Everybody got that okay? One more, same exact thing. Our points.
Adjust it as much as you want. It's not like you can go refill it now.
And we need to write the parametric equations. So x equals something plus something t, and y equals something plus something t. These are our parametric equations. All right, so here we go. What goes here? -2, -3 would be a fine choice. So would 1, -4. Now, what goes here? The slope. So the slope is -3 minus -4 over -2 minus 1. Make sure I didn't make any mistakes. Is that okay? So on top I have a 1. And on the bottom I have -3. So those are the numbers that go here. But this is y over x. Sometimes if you write that there, it reminds you. So the y is 1, and the x is -3. And we're done. Are we all here today? Are we missing someone there?
Shanti.
Oh, yeah. All right, are we good? All right, then get out your other packet that has the practice quiz in it. And the second page of that packet, they got it out, is called Prequest number 1.
Prequest. Prequest. You know what I mean.
You good? All right, here we go. Here we go. Let's see if we can get through this Prequest. It's pretty short because it's only a quest. So, yeah, it won't take us too long. Here we go. We have 2 points. And we have to find the coordinates of vector MN. All right, so that's the vector that starts at M and stops at N. So here we go. We're going from M to N. What are my coordinates? Let's look at the X's. What are we doing?
Positive 3.
What?
Okay, now be careful. We're going from -2
to 1.
to 1. Look at the notation. It kind of tells you. You're going from -2 to 1. So that is 3. And we're going from 3 to 2. -1. There are the coordinates of the vector. The vector is a movement. Okay? All right, now we're on to part 2. Lots of questions here. We want to find V dot U. All right, now take a minute. I know all this is all jumbled up in your head. Take a minute and see if you can sort it out. V dot U. Who remembers how to do the dot product? X times X, so that would be 1 times 3, Y times Y, and add them up. So what's the answer? -5. To find the dot product, we do X times X, y times y, and add them up. All right, 2v minus u. John, you doing okay today?
Yeah.
All right. So what are 2v's? 2v's would be 2 times 1 negative 2. So what is that? 2 negative 4. And then we're going to subtract a u. So we are taking, this is 2v's minus a u. So when we subtract them, we do 2 minus 3, negative 1, and negative 4 minus 4, negative 8. Do you agree with me with that? And what does C mean? What does that notation mean? Magnitude. And when we think magnitude, we think Pythagorean theorem. So look at vector V, Pythagorean theorem. What's this vector doing? Going over 1 and down 2, right? So what's his magnitude? What's his hypotenuse? Root 5. John, what's our rule about looking at that watch during this period? John? Yeah. You're very bad. There's a clock in the room if you need to know what time it is. And actually, you don't need to know what time it is because you're in math land. Yeah. There's no time. Just like retreat, you know. We're on math time now. Root 5. Your magnitude is root 5. All right, D. V plus U. All right, how do we add these guys? Real easily. What would the sum of these two vectors be? 4, 2. Easy, easy, easy. Now, what do those absolute value things mean? Magnitude. Don't worry about those. Do this first. Figure out inside first. So V minus 3U. So that's going to be 1 negative 2 minus 3 times 3, 4. Right? So what have we got? 1 minus 2. All right, let's see. This is going to be minus 9, 12. Is that right? So now I'm going to subtract. So what do I have? 1 minus 9, negative 8. Negative 2 minus 12, negative 14. Now I do my magnitude, which means Pythagorean theorem. So that's going to be the square root of 64 and 196. What is that? 260. So it's the square root of 260. And does that break down? 260 is 2 times 130. Yep, it does. 2 root 65. You're right, Gabby. Thank you. So 2 root 65 is the broken down answer.
Well, we have calculators on that part.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then finally, the last one's kind of easy. U minus V. So 3, 4 minus 1, negative 2. What's that going to equal? 2, 6. That's it. Now, does anybody have a question about number 2? There's a lot of problems in there. Anybody have a question about number 2? We're all good on that? All right, what about number 3? Find the components and magnitude. You had to do this on your quiz. When we're done with this, I'll give that quiz back and we'll go over that. We want to find the components and magnitude. Now, the components are easy. That's simple. How do I get from here to here? What are those letters, A and B? How do I get from A to B? -2 to 4 is 6. I'm not adding them. I am walking. How many steps do I take to get from -2 to 4? Moving. This is a movement. 1 to 5. 4. So there are the components. Now it says, what's the magnitude? Well, we've already done some magnitudes. Magnitude just means Pythagorean theorem. It means hypotenuse, Pythagorean theorem. So 6 and 4, that's going to be the square root of 36 and 16, 52, which breaks down into 2 root 13. All right, now we want the components of this vector. All right, what does that mean? Components of the vector. What am I looking for? X and Y. Very good. So I need to find my X and my Y. That's my answer. Components are X and Y. So I'm hearing sine and cosine all over the place. We've done this a lot. We know, now wait a minute, what angle am I going to use? 65? Yeah. In this triangle right here? Is that okay? Yeah. So X is going to equal 16 cosine 65. Now, kids, on the quiz, some of you turn these around and you put the 65 here and the 16 here. Remember, the cosine goes with the angle. The angle. So it's always going to be cosine angle. So it's 16 cosine 65 and 16 sine 65. Some of you are still confusing sine and cosine. I don't know what to do about that. Cosine is X, period. Sine is Y. We need to know that. You need to remember it. So write it on a note card, put it under your pillow, whatever it takes. Get it figured out. So I got 6.76 and 14.50. Now, do I have to be careful about anything?
Yeah.
What do I have to be careful about? Yeah, are there any negatives here? Look at your picture. Is anything going to be negative?
Yeah,
The X is going to be negative. You have to be careful, don't you? If you're not in quadrant 1, something's going to be negative. All right, number 5. We need to find the angle between these two vectors. Oh boy, does anybody remember? We have a little formula for this. Does anybody remember how we find the angle between two vectors? Magnitude, so mag times cosine. And what does that equal? You have to have something to equal that to. The dot product, that's exactly right. That equals the dot product. Now, we have already done a problem with the dot product on this Prequest. How do we find the dot product between these two vectors? What do? Uh-oh, dot product. X times X, Y times Y, add them up. So what do we get? X times X would be -2. Y times Y would be 20. So I got 18 for my dot product. If you need to label these to keep them straight, do that. X times X, Y times Y, add them up. Now we need the magnitude of this guy, the first vector. So over 2 up 4, what would that magnitude be?
4.
Not 4. Square root of 20. Now again, if you could do that in your head, great. If you can't, draw a picture of it. Over 2 up 4. This is going to be the square root of 4 plus 16, isn't it? Now I know it breaks down, but don't break it down. Because we're going to have another one, right? And then we want to put those two together. So what's the magnitude of this guy?
26.
Square root of 26 times the cosine of the angle. Now remember, we want to put these two together to make it easier to handle on the calculator. And then we're going to divide. And then we absolutely have to have a calculator because what do we have to do now? Special cosine. That's right. We're going to second cosine. Oops. We're going to second cosine. So second cosine 18 divided by the square root of 520. Did you get the angle to be 37.87 degrees? All right. So let's see. Haley Newhart. What's the formula to find the angle between two vectors? Perfect. Dot product equals magnitude times cosine, right? And we can always find the angle. Did anybody else get 37.87?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure I was typing it in right. Remove the parameter and write one equation. Okay, t is the parameter, so I want to get rid of t. How do I do that? What Joseph said it equal to? Okay, so take this top equation and subtract 2 from both sides. Is that okay with everybody? Now that's the top equation. So I'm going to take this and now I'm going to plug it into the bottom equation, doing just straight substitution. So y equals 3 minus 2 times x minus 2. Y equals 3, watch it now, minus 2x plus 4. Actually, it would be negative 2x plus 7. 3 and 4, they're both positive, so we're going to add them up.
Oh, no. I've got to put this
Is that okay with everybody? So how do we eliminate the parameter? We use substitution. Substitution. Oh, number 7, we just did these. You're good at this. Number 7.
Wait, so was our final answer y equals 7 minus 2x?
It can be 7 minus 2x, yep. Or I wrote it as negative 2x plus 7, but that's the same thing. I don't care. They're fine.
When are we having this quiz again?
It'll be early next week. And I'm glad you said quiz, because it's a bigger than a normal quiz, but it's not a whole test.
I won't be here next week.
I won't be here next week. Awesome. Tell me why you won't be here next week.
Retreat.
Well, retreat is 3 days, so you'll be here some days.
Yeah.
Monday.
Tell dog.
Oh, yeah.
Still fresh?
When you go on retreat, you don't take the whole week off now.
Yeah,
All right.
Alright, that
There's
was
enough to
unnecessary.
make up. All right, here we go. Write the parametric equations. I even did blanks for you and said x equals y equals, so you know what you're shooting for. You need a number plus a number t, a number plus a number t, right? So, given these 2 points, what goes right here where my hands are?
1 and 3.
Not 1 and 3.
I mean 1 and 2.
1 and 2, yeah. 1 and 2, or 3 and 5. But don't mix and match. Take a point and put it here. Now, what do I need to find before I can fill in this blank? I need to do my slope. 2 minus 5, 1 minus 3. I got 3 over 2, but I could have done that wrong, so I'll wait for you. Is that right?
Yep.
Now, remember, that's y over x. Slope is y over x. So, for y, I'm going to put a 3, and for x, I'm going to put a 2. Everybody good with that?
Stop.
Find the components of the velocity vector for an airplane flying at a speed of 362 miles an hour on a course of 128. Now, you have this on your quiz. But on your quiz, all you have to do is draw it. So that's step 1 anyway. We need to draw it. It's a course of 128. Kelly Berry, you remember that means we have to set up our compass, which is different labeling than we normally use. This problem is a compass because it's a direction. We're on a course of 128. So 128 would look like this. This is 128. Everybody in agreement? Now, the velocity of that airplane is 362. So that means the length of the vector is 362. Now, your job is to find the components. On your quiz, that's all you had to do. But now we're actually finding the components. What does that mean, to find the components? What am I looking for? The coordinates. So I'm going to make my butterfly bow tie triangle here. There's x and y. And I have to figure out what they are. Now I know I'm going to be using sine and cosine, right? But I need to know what angle I'm going to be using. So can we figure out this? This is the angle you need right here, this one. Can you figure out what that angle is? Liam? Liam says, look, this is 128 degrees. I know from here to here is 90. So how much past 90 do I have to go? The answer is 38 degrees. Would you agree with that? Can everybody get 38 there? Does that make sense to everybody? Yes, ma'am.
Why couldn't you do 180 minus 128?
You could, but that would give you this angle, right? Because here's 180.
Yeah.
So if you did 180 minus 128, you're going to get the space in between these two, which is that angle.
Okay.
In normal math, we always use 180, but not when you put it on a compass. When you put it on a compass, everything changes. All right, so what's x? X is going to be 362 cosine 38. Remember, the angle goes with the cosine. So cosine 38. And then y will equal 362 sine 38. So let me just type it in. I got 285.26, comma, 222.87. Now, before I move on to the next problem, I gotta pay attention, because sometimes my coordinates, my components are negative. And Trey is right. In this case, you're going to have to make the 222 negative. Okay? All right, last page. Find a unit vector in the same direction as 5, -1. You did this on your quiz also. Most of you did a really good job with this problem, by the way. Good work. How do we find a unit vector? What, we got to do something to this guy. What do we have to do to him? We find his magnitude. So the magnitude, remember magnitude means Pythagorean theorem. So the square root of 26. And then what do we do with the square root of 26? We divide both of those. So 5 over root 26, comma, -1 over root 26. And there is your unit vector. Perfect. Number 10. Find the magnitude and direction angle. All right, you can do this. Our vector is 4, -7, so I'm going to draw it. Over 4, right 4, down 7. Is that okay with everybody? Now, well, how do we find magnitude? Magnitude is easy. You've done it 10 times today. Magnitude is Pythagorean theorem. So that's going to be the square root of 49 and 16, root 65. That does not reduce. It's 13 times 5. Now we need the direction angle. Now, this is probably the problem that you miss the most on the quiz. Most people miss this of any question. This is your direction angle. So let's be clear about that. The direction angle, if it's not a compass problem, the direction angle starts here and rotates around. Now, obviously, I can't find that angle. I can only find this one. I know that the tangent of that angle is -7/4. Right? Now, I can take or leave the negative. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the size of this angle is 60.26. Now, what did I type in my calculator to get 60.26? Special tangent. Now, I dropped the negative. You're free to keep it if you want. It doesn't matter. I need to know that angle, 60.26. So then what is going to be the actual direction angle then? Not 60.26. It will be what? 360 minus that, which is 299.74. Very good. You really need to draw your picture, kids, so that you can see what angle is gonna be the actual answer?
How did we get 60.26?
Right here, second tangent, 7/4. Opposite over adjacent is 7/4. I get angles by using second tangent or second cosine or second something.
Are you always gonna do 360 minus the?
If you're in this quadrant, you are, but you won't always be in that quadrant.
So if you were in the other one, you'd do -1.
Yep. You gotta pick, that's why I said draw a picture. Because if you draw a picture, you'll know what you're gonna do to get the angle.
This one is not the same as a compass. This one actually goes
Exactly. The only one, I just erased it, but the only one that uses the compass is the one that says you have a ship sailing on this course, or you have an airplane flying on this course, something like that. So, only use a compass when you're doing directions, like somebody's taking a journey on a path, okay. All right, now I've got two vectors, 3, 1, and -6, -2. And the question is, are they parallel, orthogonal, that means perpendicular, or neither, and why? How did we do these? We did a bunch of these the other day. Do you remember how we did them?
If it in between, right?
Well, we found their slope, right? We found their slopes. So this vector goes over 3 up 1. So what's its slope? Y over x, y over x, y over x, rise over run, rise over run. The slope here is 1/3. What's the slope here? Rise over run. -2 over -6, which is 1/3. The slopes are the same. What does that mean about your vectors? They are parallel. Parallel means same slope. And number 12, is AB equal to CD? Well, you can't tell until you figure out what AB and CD are. So AB is the vector from A to B. So what are the coordinates from A to B? 3, 4. Perfect. Now we're going from C to D. Going from C to D. 3, 4? Question is, are they equal? Yes. Why are they equal? Because they have the same coordinates. That's right, their coordinates are the same. They have exactly the same coordinates. Okay? All right, let me hand back your quizzes real quick. Chris, can you turn that off? Thank you.